Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment.
Saturday morning, my dad was rushed to the ER. He woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't breathe, and started beating on his closet door until one of his roommates found him. My dad isn't a very rich man, but he definitely makes a decent chunk of money. We reconnected after 6 years of not talking when I was 18, and ever since then have had a rock-solid relationship. Recently, however, my dad has been going through a messy divorce. My ex-stepmother has been putting my dad through the loop this past summer, even going so far as to obtain a protective order against my dad over an incident that he was arrested for, that was overall ruled idiotic and dropped. Throughout this, my dad has begun dating much younger girls, sending them money, and even going so far as to move one of her friends into his home, while he pays for her car and college. I live an hour away, and currently don't have access to a drivable car, so I wasn't able to see my dad on his first day in the ICU. I made it up there Sunday evening, and spent some time in his room with him. The hospital has him in a medically induced coma because he has severe pneumonia and he continues fighting the tube down his throat while conscious. On Monday, I went back while they were attempting to wake him up. My dad is a big guy, and I could tell that I had missed the worst part when I showed up by how skittish they were acting. He was still fighting his restraints and had his eyes open when I got there, so I held his hand and calmed him down until he eventually went back under. He hasn't been fully conscious since Saturday morning. I came back to the ICU today, only to find out that my father's ex-wife had come to the hospital the night before, claiming to be his wife still, and saying he didn't have any daughters. She wiped my name and number off the emergency contact section of the whiteboard and put hers instead. The nurse told me this when I showed up this morning because she had thought it was fishy that the wife was showing up 3 days after her husband goes into the hospital. 10 minutes later, my dad's live-in sugar baby shows up claiming to be basically his new wife. She started demanding information and continually cut me off while I was trying to talk to the nurse about my father. So much to the point that one of the nurses had to tell her to stop talking. The nurse staff tells us that there isn't anything they can do about my ex-stepmom coming up to the ICU to see my dad, since they are still technically married, since the divorce isn't finalized. My dad's sugar baby starts on about how she's pretty much his new wife, and she can make calls on what happens to my dad, and starts causing a scene in my dad's hospital room. I managed to get her out of the ICU by bribing her with a cigarette, where she then tells me that my dad had signed over everything to her if he dies. The sugar baby who brings her new boyfriend over to my dad's house while he's unconscious in a hospital bed. I feel broken and helpless. Everyone has constantly used my dad, and now in a situation that there's a good chance he won't come out of, I'm stuck fighting his ex-wife, who now gets to legally make all of the decisions regarding what the hospital can do, and his sugar baby, who gets everything he owns if he dies. I know my dad has made some very bad decisions to land him in this situation, but I love him, and I just want him to get better. If he comes out of this, we're going to have a serious talk. But right now, I'm so scared that I'm going to lose him, and I feel like I'm the only one who actually cares on if he makes it out of this or not. Any advice helps. Do you have evidence they are in the final stages of divorce? If no, call your dad's divorce attorney. Get some paperwork showing you're the daughter, like your birth certificate or some mail. Ask to speak to patient relations. Explain the situation. Likely, his wife does indeed have some rights here, but you do as well. Ask for a note to be added to electronic chart and paper chart, if they have one, that you are the daughter. Bring any divorce paperwork you have and give that to the patient relations as well. Ask patient relations for medical surrogate paperwork. If your dad wakes up, even for a little bit, have him sign it with 2 non-related witnesses present. Keep a copy, and have them scan a copy into chart. I'd also print financial POA and a basic will off the internet, and have him sign those too if he wakes up. Again, with 2 non-family witnesses. You and your wife should consider kicking Sugar Baby out of the hospital. She has no right to be there and seems to think she'll benefit from his death. Don't let her tamper with anything. Good luck.
I respect my mother in many ways. She was an immigrant and escaped poverty and communism by moving to a country where she didn't understand a single word to build her own business and raise 4 siblings and I. What an incredible task! I really appreciate all that she has done for me. However, she has a rather cold approach to child rearing, and I do feel that my incredibly low self-esteem is due largely in part from her. You are so fat and ugly. I looked through an old photo album recently, and holy crap, I was skinny. Swimsuits and skinny jeans are only for pretty skinny girls. I can't believe a daughter of mine would wear glasses. You must be broken. I have a broken child. Only a B? How disappointing. I wish I had insert classmate as a daughter. She would never let me down like you. Why can't I just have a normal kid? Years later, she'd say it was because with having 5 kids and lots of other problems, she didn't have the time to point out everything we did right. We should have known we're doing it well. But she thought she found it important to correct us. I guess that makes sense. I got married 5 years ago. Husband and I are DINK, so even though we don't have the responsibility of kids, which my mom so desperately wants us to have, but that's another story. We've been spending the last 5 years, instead of saving for a house, putting money into what husband is calling the black hole. We got married, and whatever money we got from friends and relatives, my mom instantly took half of it because she needs it for renovating her house from hurricane damage. And as her daughter, I should understand. Of course, she'll give it back. My parents had an older Toyota that I bought from them for $8,000 after my wedding, so they could put the money down for a newer Prius, because my dad does a lot of commuting. 1 month later, Prius gets totaled. Construction worker left tools on the road at night. My dad never sues the state because he kept pushing it off. So they asked me to borrow my car. I gave it to them for over a year. We live in an area where it's almost impossible to get around without a car. I would walk 5 miles in the winter, one way, to go grocery shopping. It was ridiculous. One time, I asked to borrow the car to visit a friend out of state. They kept calling me periodically that weekend, telling me how selfish I'm being. My dad had to take off work, etc. Guys, I told you I needed the car weeks in advance. You could have planned it better. Finally, husband and I just bought a new car because we weren't even getting ours back. Years later, mom tries to spin it as, "You should have told me how far you were walking to the grocery store. I would have picked you up." Mom, you live 2 hours away. My parents then lost the business. No fault of their own. Landlord didn't want to do repairs. For example, leaking ceiling that caused customers to not want to come. They asked me for $25,000 so they could hire a good lawyer and save their business. Yeah, that didn't work out. I also had about $20,000 saved up in an account from when I worked while I was a teenager, which was under their names. I asked for the money, and mom pretended I took it and that I don't remember spending it. I think they tried to use that money for the case and are too embarrassed to tell me. Most recently, my mom wanted to go back to the motherland to visit grandma for her 80th birthday. My sister and I split the cost of the airplane ticket, and I gave an extra $600 because my mom said she needed it for new clothes and presents for relatives. Otherwise, she refused to go because it would be embarrassing. She returned the other day. I asked how it all went. During our conversation, the topic somehow switched to eye color. She was claiming my youngest sister, 16 years younger than I, had hazel eyes and not brown. She went over to check and started hysterically screaming, "You have spots in your eyes. Are you blind? Can you see me? I have a blind child. What's wrong with you?" I told her to calm down. No, there are no spots in my sister's eyes. What the duck? Oh, must have been mistaken then. Whoops. And told her if she is really worried about my sister, to not suddenly shame her and bark in her face like it's the Spanish Inquisition. Cue long tear-filled conversation about how much I hate her. Guys, it hasn't even been a few days since she came back from a 2-week-long, all-expense-paid trip on my dime, but I clearly hate her. I'm so done. I can't. I want a relationship with my younger siblings, though, which still live with my parents. especially since holidays are coming up. How do I handle this? You need to stop giving your parents money. None of the money you've given them in the past had helped. Stop enabling them. Tell them that you're unable to give any more money. And if mom gets upset, let her be upset. It's okay for her to feel however she feels. You don't have to let her feelings control you. I, 35 female, married my husband, 37 male, 10 years ago. Prior to our relationship, he had been married for 2 years to L, 22 female. Sadly, she passed away because of ongoing health issues. I met my husband 5 years after her passing. At the beginning of our relationship, I had some issues with his romantic history. To put it bluntly, I was having trouble accepting my husband's past and that he did not stop loving his late wife, but was forced to do so. I went to therapy for a year to treat that, and I managed to overcome this issue. My husband knows this and was very supporting of me and the treatment. I like to say that Elle and I would have been best friends. The issue. After 10 years of marriage, we have been having a lot of arguments, derived from bad communication. We just seem to blow everything out of proportion. About 3 months ago, every time we had an argument, he takes the car and goes away for hours. When I asked where he went, he told me that he went to see her, Elle. Now, this is very weird from him because he, at best, visits Elle's grave 3 times a year. I then asked him to not run away every time we fight, and to please tell me when he goes to the cemetery so we can go together. He just brushed me off. He has been doing this for months now, and it is destroying me. The feelings I fought the first year of our relationship are coming back. I am sad all the time. I cry at night, but my husband just keeps going away for hours. At this point, I think he is doing it out of spite more than anything else. Yesterday, I reached my limit. We fought over freaking trash. That's how petty our arguments are. He took the car at 4 p.m., returned at 11 p.m. I was waiting for him at the dining room. The convo went like this. Me. Where were you? Husband. I visited her again. Me. I've told you multiple times about how your actions hurt me, and you continue to do them. Husband. You can't stop me from going. Me. Well, we can get a divorce. That way, you can marry Elle's tombstone, being that you care more about it than our marriage. I could see the shock in his face when I said that. I apologized immediately, but I think he did not hear me. I saw how he started crying. He has been locked in his office since yesterday and refuses to get out. I feel like the biggest a-hole ever. What I said was a low blow and something horrible. I attacked him where I knew he was going to hurt. But at the same time, a part of me thinks that what he is feeling right now is just a fraction of what he has put me through for months. I literally made a vow to Elle the day I got married. I told her, "You can take care of him from heaven, and I will take care of him here on earth." I broke that vow. Is there any way I can salvage this relationship? Edit. 3 months ago, we found out that I am pregnant, after 8 years of trying. He has been visibly stressed out and reactive since the discovery, even though we both wished for a baby. The two of you need individual and couples counseling immediately. That's the only way to salvage this. I'd say becoming a widower is different than being hung up on an ex. As long as they're not actively grieving and having that negatively impact your relationship, it's just something that's always going to exist. Your husband running to her grave every time you fight is certainly concerning. So talk about it, get into counseling, and see where it goes from there. That's assuming you even want to fight for this. I'd imagine this has been a theme throughout your relationship, and you just overlooked it the entire time until you finally can't anymore. It's time to address it now. Good luck. Before the update, I wanted to clarify something. I was only jealous of Elle in the first year of our relationship, but as I said, I worked through it in therapy. Throughout my relationship with my husband, I've hosted dinners in her honor, ordered embellishments for her grave, pushed my husband to reconnect with his former in-laws, and I even placed her in my altar of Dia de Muertos alongside my family members. I consider her a friend, even if I've never met her. The update. We agreed on temporary separation, since we still don't know how we are going to co-parent and stuff like that. Shortly after my post, he came out of his office. I made us both dinner, and we talked for what it feels the first time in months. First, I apologized for what I said, but I told him that the point still stands. I then asked him if he truly goes and sits at her grave for hours. He said that he does not. Turns out that he sits at her grave for an hour at max, and then goes on a tour around the city visiting their favorite places. He goes to restaurants and asks for her favorite dishes, drives around her favorite spots in the city. I then asked him why. Why was he doing it now that we found out I was pregnant after so much trying? He said that he could not avoid thinking about what it would have been to raise a child with Elle, and about how many things he missed experiencing with her. He did say that he did not regret our relationship, which makes it better, I guess. I also asked him if I failed him in any way. Was I a bad wife, a bad friend? Did I fail to fulfill his needs? And he said that I just wasn't her. Honestly, I think I'd rather have someone punch me than telling me that. Finally, I asked him when is he starting therapy. He responded that very soon because he wanted to be a good father. I said fine, because I don't want someone around my child who grieves an imaginary child and an imaginary life when he has a living and breathing family. That's all, I think. He moved out to his parents' house the same night. His mother did call me to tell me that she and my father-in-law chewed him out for what he did. I thanked them and told them that I am still very interested in them having a relationship with my child, and they should not pay for their son's mistake. I also visited Elle. I apologized for breaking my vow, but that I hope that she is able to watch over husband and to help him throughout his therapy. I understand that death can be super painful, but that doesn't mean you should come second to someone that's not alive. I'm glad you stuck up for yourself, and I hope you find happiness. Where to begin? 5 years ago, my dad began seeing a young woman. He started emptying accounts to pay her money. I believe she is a scammer who convinced him that she cares about him so that he will pay her money and support her. She lives within 20 miles of us. Because of this, he feuded with business partner and lost company. He accused business partner of being jealous of him. Throughout all of this, he has denied everything and refused to admit any wrongdoing. Mother has multiple sclerosis, has had breast cancer, spine surgery, and is mobile, but gets tired easily and has bad days with health. Needs wheelchair for stores, etc. When father got busted a few years ago, he tried to get mom to go to another country to get treatment, to get her out of the picture. She didn't go. He has been a total a-hole through this whole process. He has lost most of his friends and is a religious leader in his community. Has been shunned by most. Mistress introduced him to her sister overseas, and he started traveling overseas to see her and give her money. He has been hiding money and emptying accounts to spend on them. Mom didn't want to get divorced because their only asset are the house they live in together, $200,000 US. Another small house they own, $100,000, and few empty parcels of land, 5 lots at $10,000 each. She didn't have money to spend on lawyer and was scared to follow through because she didn't want to have too many lawyer fees. 18 months ago, father had major surgery and was hospitalized for 2 months. Took over a year to be able to walk, not piss pants, sleep normally, etc. Mother and I spent entire year nursing him back to health 24/7. Almost lost my own family because of all the time I spent with them, neglecting my own family. Mother is a saint and did everything for him. He is better now and back to his old tricks of hiding money, emptying pension accounts, refusing to pay own bills so he can spend on these women. Not sure if it's actually his child, but it's due in July. He says he will put name on birth certificate and wants it to be his. There is a chance it is because I know he had medicine, protection, and a pee pump hidden in luggage when I visited. It's possible this woman had S with him, but got pregnant by someone else. She just wants to get as much money as she can from him. He is antsy about money because he wants to support his new child. Other woman is not U.S. citizen and is here on a visa with her husband. More of a business partner. I know they both date other people. They claim they are religious refugees from Eastern Europe. They are trying to become citizens. We are guessing that father will change his will, so new child and mother get money. Father can barely take care of himself, and mother is just a little better. This has torn my family apart, put a lot of stress on us and mom the last 5 years as it all came out. He was an abusive drunk for most of our lives, but had a great 10-year period where he was the best guy ever before he changed personalities and became a huge D. Okay, here are my questions. I think mother should get divorced as soon as possible, instead of waiting for father to pass and then be in a dispute with mistress in will that might force sale of current home to buy out mistress from what she is owed in will. What else should I be thinking about? How do I pick the right attorney? Do I get a consultation as soon as possible with one just to get some advice? Father fully intends to make mom's life living hell and will not agree to amicable divorce and even split of assets. Has always said he intends to keep everything and ensure mother is out on the street if a divorce happens. Have you tried calling Adult Protective Services to report the mistress for scamming your father? Is he still of sound mind? If his doctor believes he isn't, you might be able to pursue guardianship. That would help significantly in safeguarding his finances and keeping the mistress away. Whatever you do, it will probably benefit you a lot to consult with an elder law attorney very soon, but before taking action.